Before Light Yagami ever calls himself a god, before the world whispers the name Kira, before L turns the investigation into a war of intellect, Death Note shows us something quieter and far more disturbing. Light does not look horrified when the notebook works. He looks relieved. That is the first warning. Not the supernatural notebook, not Ryuk's grin, not the sudden power to kill from a bedroom desk. The real danger is that Light's first murder does not create a crisis in him. It creates confirmation. The notebook does not corrupt him from the outside. It gives shape to something already waiting inside. So the frightening question is not why Light became Kira. It is why becoming Kira felt so natural to him. Why Light Yagami was doomed from episode 1 is not a question about intelligence. Light was brilliant. He was careful, disciplined, and terrifyingly strategic. But intelligence was never the thing that could save him. Death Note is not simply about a good student corrupted by power. It is about what happens when someone believes their morality is too pure to be questioned. Light does not fall because the notebook changes who he is. He falls because the notebook gives him permission to become the person he already believed the world needed. And once justice becomes personal certainty, every death starts to look like proof. The first time Light uses the Death Note, the scene is framed almost like an experiment. He tests a name. He waits. He confirms the result. But what matters is not just that the criminal dies. It is how quickly Light begins building meaning around that death. A normal person might panic. Light rationalizes. He tells himself the world is rotten. He tells himself someone has to clean it. He tells himself criminals deserve it. And the moment those thoughts align, murder stops feeling like murder. It becomes a task, a burden, a mission. That is where Light's doom begins. It would be easy to say the Death Note corrupts him, but that reading is too simple. The notebook gives him power, yes, but power alone does not explain the speed of his transformation. Light does not spend the story wrestling with guilt. He spends it refining his methods. The Lind L. Taylor broadcast reveals this perfectly. Light could have ignored the provocation. He could have stayed hidden. Instead, he kills a man on live television because his pride cannot tolerate being challenged. In that moment, justice is no longer about protecting the world. It is about punishing anyone who denies his authority. And that is the trap. Light thinks he is building a better world, but every obstacle becomes another justification for cruelty. Innocent people become acceptable losses. Allies become tools. Family becomes cover. Even love becomes something he can arrange, exploit, and discard. The most disturbing part is not that Light lies to others. It is that every lie helps him keep believing himself. This is where Death Note feels disturbingly close to moral psychology. There is a concept often called moral licensing, the idea that when people believe they are acting for a righteous cause, they become more willing to excuse their own harmful behavior. Light lives inside that logic. Because he defines himself as justice, his actions no longer need to be judged by ordinary morality. Killing criminals proves he is right. Killing investigators proves they were in the way. Killing innocent people proves the mission is difficult. Every contradiction is absorbed into the belief that Kira must continue. This is why moral certainty can be more dangerous than hatred. Hatred at least knows it is emotional. Certainty disguises itself as reason. And Light's certainty becomes a prison he cannot see. He cannot admit doubt, because doubt would mean the entire identity of Kira is built on murder, ego, and fear. So when Light finally falls, it does not feel like a genius being outsmarted. It feels like a belief system collapsing. His panic in the end is not only fear of death, it is fear of meaninglessness. If Kira is exposed as a murderer, then every justification Light built around himself turns to ash.
The new world was not justice, it was control. The god was not divine. He was a frightened young man who needed the world to obey him. That is why he was doomed from the beginning. Because Light never truly wanted justice to be fair. He wanted justice to have his face. Death Note endures because it does not ask whether a killer can change the world. It asks whether we would recognize evil if it arrived speaking the language of justice. Light Yagami did not become a monster because he lost his mind. He became one because he trusted it completely.